All right, yeah, this is the Infinite Ambition podcast. Recognize your limitless worth, damn it. Yes, sir, man. I've been fortunate and honored to have recently have linked up with this gentleman and not only do some work for on the musical side as well as collab with, but to get to know him a little bit. You know what I mean? He's a member of the Theodore Unit. Theodore Unit, and if you don't know what that is Ghostface Killah's crew. Yes, the legendary Ghostface of the Wu-Tang Clan. We're gonna get into that and a whole lot of other fun topics as far as like his studio ethic, his work ethic, tour life, the Wu-Tang Docking series, his mixtapes and albums, how does he feel about this new technology, his new generation in hip hop, where he got his name from, and a lot of other cool things involved with that, man. Without further ado, I want to introduce the Mr. Solomon Childs, ladies and gentlemen. How you feeling, brother?
Peace, y'all. How's everybody doing? What's going down?
Feeling great, man. I definitely appreciate you I'm taking out the time to talk to me, man. I know I ain't the biggest podcast in the world, but there's baby steps to this, like I was mentioning in the pre-show. I'm on the ground level getting started, and I just want to say thank you for blessing me with the time to sit down and spit at me for a minute about this. I know we don't have a whole lot of time here today, but that just means we got a lot of ammo to fire off on a part two, because we got so much we can get into, man. I got a lot of personal questions I want to get into, things I want to talk about with you, your career, your music, life outside of that, how you balance it, and all kind of cool stuff, man. Because in the short time that I got to know you and research some of your music and look at some things you've done, I've become a fan, man. So I appreciate it, bro.
No doubt. I appreciate you having me.
Man, so from my understanding, you in Philly right now. Was that where you're originally from, or he came here for proxy, or what's up with that?
No, I'm originally from Staten Island, New York.
Yeah. Said left, right?
West Brighton.
Oh, West Brighton. Okay.
Yeah, that's the name of the neighborhood, West Brighton. I kind of grew up in New Brighton, but I was born in West Brighton, and then we moved to New Brighton, and then years later, I moved back to West Brighton as growing up. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm in Philly now. Home of the brotherly love.
Yeah.
And just elevating.
I've always wanted to visit Philly, man. I never visited there before. I visited Pittsburgh a few times in my childhood because I got cousins that were from out there. But yeah, man, one day Philly's going to be on my list of vacations because I've always wanted to go out there and check it out.
Mm-hmm. Philly's dope too. Philly's dope. You know what I mean? It's all that it's cracked up to be.
Yeah.
Cheese sticks is dope.
Okay.
It's all that it's cracked up to be. I promise you.
Man, from somebody who's never been there before and always wanted to go. I'm from Ohio, so it's right next to Pennsylvania. It's y'all's neighbors in a way. What would you suggest I would do as far as like I don't really know much about Philly as far as the experience of being there. What would you suggest I do? Not as far as like any single man type of stuff, because I'm married, but like as far as like a family situation, what would you suggest I do for fun out there?
So I would definitely suggest the zoo.
Okay. I love animals.
The zoo is amazing.
Yeah.
And the museums are amazing as well.
I'm all about art and animals, man. My wife and I, we into that stuff, man. We definitely. Man, well, now you said New Brighton and West Brighton. What is the difference? And is there different boroughs, a different part of the city, or is it totally different cities? Because I'm not that familiar with it as far as like
neighborhoods.
Okay,
different neighborhoods in Staten Island. That's all it is.
Oh, how's that influenced your musical styles when you came up? Like when you first started doing music? I don't want to spill too much of the tea as far as like getting into subjects too fast early in the podcast, but like when you first started doing music, did those areas influence your style, or was it people you choose around, or was it ghosts? Was it where'd that come from?
Well, no, that those areas really didn't influence anything pertaining to my hip hop style or hip hop at all, because I really never was a hip hop kid. I didn't know nothing about hip hop.
Yeah.
I grew up with my dad, God rest his soul. He was into country western.
Okay.
So when we were in the car,
good storytelling.
With him, there was no hippity beepity top type music. Yeah. What I mean? It was just basically country western. It was George Strait.
Yeah.
Willie Nelson, Conway Twitty, Dolly Parton, Randy Travis.
Yep.
You know, it was that kind of music. You know what I mean?
They're good storytellers. Now, I think that some of that influence, like your storytelling and some of your music, how you put words together, because everything that we absorbed as a child, we're like sponges. We take it in, we carry it with us, and implement that into whatever artistic medium we put out later on in life.
Right. You know, so it was like, you know, that was the kind of music that, you know, I was fortunate to be involved with through him. And then my mom, she was more like, you know, Pat Benatar and Sade and God Bless Whitney Houston, Ashford and Simpson, and you know, Patti LaBelle. Those kind of, you know, songs. You know, so
you got the hip hop and the R&B soul together.
Those kind of songs were through my mom. So I didn't really know anything about hip hop. You know, what I mean, I knew nothing about hip hop till like, you know, maybe, you know, junior high school, and you know, just, you know, coming in and you know, hearing my cousins at the lunchroom table, and like, you know. And I'm like, you know, what are you guys listening to? What do you know? Not listening to, because they were like doing like a beatbox, like on the table, like, oh, and I'm like, you know, what are y'all singing? Like, what is that? And they're like, oh, we singing Big Daddy Kane, and I'm like, who's that?
Yeah.
And they're like, you know, what rock have you been under for the last, you know, 10, 12 years, you know? And I'm like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. You know?
It sounded foreign to you, like, what?
You know, I know New Edition, you know, so that was kind of like the closest thing that I knew to rap was New Edition,
right?
You know, and I'm like, you know, I'm like, I don't know anything about that. So, you know, my cousins was like, hey, you know, have you ever watched Video Music Box? And I'm like, no.
Shout out to Ralph McDaniels, yo.
Get home from school, you can put Video Music Box on, and you'll be able to, you know, get in tune with hip hop. And I'm like, okay, well, what channel's it on? And they were like, it's on channel 31. I'm like, I don't got channel 31. My TV only goes up to 13. They're like, no. You got to use the other button and put it on you. You know, put it on 0.
Oh.
Well, put the top button on you, and then the button under it, you put that on 31. I'm like, oh, that's what that button is for. I never knew what that button was for. Usually, when
I kind of remember that button.
Like, you know, noise. I'm like, it's just snow.
Yeah.
So, you know, I did that. You know, I got home that day at like, you know, 3 o'clock and messed around in the house and waited, and I put it on, and you know, I had called my cousin and I was like, hey, you know, Marvin, what's going on? Why'd you lie to me? He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I'm watching this Channel 31 thing, and it's a guy with an afro, and he's painting a picture.
Bob Ross.
He's like, no, you gotta, exactly 3:30 is gonna come on. Just calm down. And I'm like, all right, no problem. And 3:30 exactly. I mean, like on the dot.
Yeah.
3:30.
Yep.
I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Out of nowhere.
This? I felt like I entered an entirely new world of like just something that I wasn't a part of.
Yeah, man. That's what it was.
Like, you know, the first video that came on, it was like, yeah, what's up? This is VJ Ralph McDaniels. We're going to get right into it.
The legend.
I got it made. Bennett.
That was my joint, man. Yeah. Yeah, man. Shout out to legendary Ralph McDaniels, man. Opened up a lot. He was one of the pioneers that opened up hip hop to the mainstream audience on a small level before it got to Yo MTV Raps and Rap City and all that. Yeah, man. I remember my first introduction to hip hop was LL Cool J. I'm Bad was probably the first full single I really lost my mind dancing to. I mean, I've heard a few other tapes here and there from uncles and friends and cousins playing it in their car, and I didn't really know what it was, but I just knew I liked it. That boom bap, that sound, that them drums used to hit me in a different way that I loved. Like I used to always love the soul and the R&B from that my parents and cousins and parents and aunts and uncles were playing in the cars or whatever in parties. But when that boom that shit hit me in Run DMC, I thought I could break dance, but I couldn't. I was doing all kind of stupid shit.
Right.
Acting the ass at family reunions, man.
Right. So that was kind of it for me. You know, once I seen like the special ed kid, and I'm like, yo, because it was like, you know, he looked like me. He looked like you know, like a regular kid, and he wasn't flashy. He was speaking flashy, kind of, but he wasn't flashy. He didn't have a whole bunch of jewelry on. It wasn't like, you know, he wasn't. It was just it was like a high school video. It was like a school. It was like you were in school, and they were just vibing, and they was like, you know, feeling good. I didn't get like, you know, he was mega rich. Yeah. You know, I just got like, you know, he was rapping and he was chilling and he was dancing and kids were dancing, and you know, he made it relatable to you. Yeah. Yeah. It was so relatable. It was so like. And I was like, wow, this is amazing for me right here. This is, I feel like, you know, I'm like, this is just amazing. And that was it. You know what I mean? Right there, I decided that, you know, this is what I want to do. Right. Oh, man. That I love hearing inspirational stories like that, as far as like stories about how people came into the field that they're into now, or how they got inspired by the beginnings and the origins of what inspired them to do what they're doing now, and like kind of like a coming of age story, how they started to what they are now. And that's part of what this podcast has been about. What the show started about, not only music but anybody in a creative space, whether they're entrepreneurs or just people with a lot of talent and an interesting backstory. I've really been into that because I know a lot of people like that, and still continuing to meet a lot of people like that along the ways, and that's why I wanted to do this. On top of being a huge fan of many podcasts, now from not just from what I heard from my man Chris, who put me on to you, but I did a little bit of researching a little bit, and I didn't realize that not only did you have close connections to the legendary Wu-Tang Clan, but that Ghostface is your cousin. Am I right? Am I right by saying that? Yeah, that's my first cousin. And, okay. Capadon is my godbrother. Nice. I seen that too. Now, what's the? That was my godmother. Oh, okay. That's what I was about to ask you next. Like, I knew about how the godmother and the godfather situation works, but I never heard anybody say they had a godbrother, or god sister. I wanted to know how that operated, how that worked. But now I kind of get it now. Yeah, that's usually just, you know, the parent, the godparent. Their children are usually your godbrothers. Okay. Your gods, you know what I mean? That's how that goes. That's all it is. Oh, okay, yeah, I didn't know it was that cut and dry. I thought it was like somebody that wasn't blood related and they had to be chosen, or something more complex than that. But okay, I was happy to see that that's how it works. That's amazing, man. I think that's really dope, man. Did you when you started writing your first rhymes or started trying to record your first rhymes, did you bring it to either one of them first, or did you just start putting music out there and then one of them noticed like, oh, you rhyme too? How'd that situation start off? I mean, I always sang. I always was a singer, and a dancer, coming up, doing that for my mom and her friends, like at family barbecues or pity pat games, they'd be like, yo, you want to see what Ryan can do? And they throw on like New Edition or Michael Jackson. They'd be like, go ahead, baby, do that stuff. And, I'd start lip syncing and dancing, like, to the T. But, coming up, what kind of gave me, once I realized that, I wanted to do the rapping thing, I started rapping. And it was like, I didn't really know how to put words together yet. I was immature with the vocabulary still. Mm-hmm. So I knew what I wanted to do and I knew what I wanted to say, but I didn't have the wordplay to say what I wanted to say. Okay, yeah. So, as I would be rapping, the OGs, like, before my cousins and them, they would be like, yo, he sounds dope, but he's not saying anything. Because I would be making up words like myological, iolical, ceolical, reolical, right. You know what I mean? So, they would be like, he got a flow, but he ain't saying that. It was the East Coast E40 before E40 was E40, making up slang. Right. So they was like, and then one dude, one OG was like, yo, you sound like Cool G Rap. Mm. And I'm like, who's Cool G Rap? He's like, you'll learn Cool G Rap. Yep. And I was like, all right. So, as we watching more Video Music Box, I finally got a chance to see Cool G Rap, Rose to the Riches. Mm-hmm. I was 5 years old. I realized I had a roll at the end. I would pull out the pots of gold. So I'm like, oh, okay, this is who I sound like. I'm like, this dude's dope. I'm like, I sound like him.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow. I said, okay,
I got something. Okay.
You know, so you know, and I just the goal was, I kept reading.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I kept, expanding my vocabulary.
There you go. That's the way to do it.
Expanded my vocabulary. It was better and it was more easier for me to actually put it in, a type of scenario that I wanted it to be in and present it the way I wanted to present it.
Okay.
And that was basically that for me, and I basically, just started, doing it like that and started, really actually, perfecting my craft and, getting better and better and better. And
like developing your delivery?
Right.
Getting more comfortable with it?
Right. And, I did my first penitentiary bid. I came home from it. And, when I came home from it, I had, when I was locked up, I perfected a way of rapping and doing the beat at the same time.
Oh, okay.
Like, so I would be able to knock on the tables.
Oh yeah.
Perfect the beat and rap. A lot of people couldn't do that.
Right.
And it was like, but I took it from me just being so lyrically inclined that it was like, oh, okay, this is dope. I know how to do this. So I was killing kids, you know what I mean, battle-wise. Like, I was taking on kids 2 at a time.
Man, that's like natural raw talent right there, man.
Torching them because I knew how to switch up, from singing to chatting, reggae chatting to rapping, all with different beats of knocking on the table.
Oh shit!
Right. And when I came home, I had ran into my god brother on the ferry, on the Staten Island ferry.
Okay.
He was like, hey, what are you doing? I had another cousin. His name was Junior. Big June, they called him. Big June was pretty much like, he was in another part of entertainment, but he was major. He used to mess with Daddy's House, with Puffy.
Yeah.
And he was he did a lot of music with CNC Music Factory, Jelly Bean.
Oh shit! Okay.
That whole house scene. He was like major in that.
Yeah.
And he had me going to, preparing me for an interview at Daddy's House.
Okay.
But it was taking too long.
Right.
And I was getting impatient, but I was still patient. And then I had ran into my god brother on the ferry, and he's like, "Yo, what are you doing?" I said, I'm supposed to be on my way to Daddy's house, but I don't know what's going on. I haven't got the phone call yet. So he's like, "Don't worry about that. You want to come with me?" And I was like, "Where you going?" He's like, "I'm going to the Wu Mansion."
Ah.
Wu Mansion?
Okay.
What's the Wu Mansion? He's like, where Wu-Tang got their house, whatever. So I'm like, yeah, I'll go with you. Mm-hmm. So we got on the PATH train, and we went to the Wu Mansion in Jersey.
All right.
We did the pillage.
Damn. I gotta go back and listen to. I gotta go back and listen to that album now.
It was amazing. You know what I mean? It was amazing. We had recorded the pillage. It was a dope experience. We did Blood on Blood War.
Y'all recorded the whole pillage at the mansion?
We did Pump Up Your Fist, and I just basically was, motivational for him, with the process of the whole pillage album.
Man. How was
and then that was that, that was the starting of, Killer Bands.
Now, I'm skipping ahead a little bit here, and I'm gonna come back and move around a little bit. But when you brought that up, you made me want to jump before I forget about it. How did you? I don't know if you saw it or not. The Wu-Tang doc on Hulu. How was the depiction of the Wu Mansion in that doc as comparison to how it was from your experience in real life?
Well, I'd never seen the Hulu series.
Okay.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
Well, I saw it and I thought it was great. I was a huge fan of it, but I want to get, since you're inside, I want to get your perspective of it, but you haven't seen it yet, so...
I never watched it. I think I didn't watch it because I was actually there for it.
Right.
So it was like, I wanted to see it. And then I forgot who told me, but I had got a message one time that Raekwon had said something like, the Hulu series is like an expensive bottle of cognac.
Okay.
But watered down.
Yeah. That happens a lot in Hollywood.
That kind
or
of
just
like made me say, well, okay, I don't want to see this then.
Yeah.
No.
And we all know it tends to happen a lot as far as like doing renditions, like TV or film renditions of something that happened in real life, whether they be biopics or autobiographical pics. And it also depends on whose perception that story is told from. Whoever like wrote it and directed, or executive producer, whoever's the main force behind the creative part of it. A lot of it, we as fans see, comes from the way they want to tell their experience. And we know it's not always going to be 100% correct, but when we hear the stories from the people who are actually there, put those two together, then we kind of get the real story. So yeah, so that's why I wanted to know, like, how much of it is, what's the percentage of it that's watered down, and what's the percentage of it that's pure? Because I can't say I was 100% Wu head from the beginning. I caught onto the whole Wu movement later. At first, it was like a little too much over my head when I was like in my middle, freshman, sophomore, and junior year of high school. I started catching on later, and I was catching up like, oh, okay, this is why it's so dope. So I had homies who was like super deep into it, and I didn't get it at first, and then it took me a while to get it once I matured and got deeper into the hip hop game. So yeah, that's why I was always fascinated by how it was portrayed on screen as comparison to how it was in real life from anybody who was there.
Right, yeah, right.
Yeah. So how did you get your name? Where did Solomon Childs come from? I'm always fascinated with that with rappers, whether I know them or not, because I know whether it be their actual birth name or if it's a name that was given to them or a name that they created. What does Solomon Childs mean, and where did that come from?
My original hip hop name was Killah Bams. Because I was going with the whole Killer B thing.
Yeah.
You had Killer Sin,
Master Killer Army, yep.
Killer
Bees,
Master Killer, Ghostface Killah.
Yeah.
So I was going with the whole Killer theme, and I was like, okay, so I'm Killah Bams.
Right.
And
which would be dope too. That's dope also.
I brought the music to my mom, and my mom was like, oh, I said, hey, I'm doing music with Daryl. And she's like, oh, okay, really? Nice. That's nice. I said, yeah, you want to hear something? She's like, yeah, let me hear something. And I played her Pillage, and she was like, that's you? I said, yeah. She said, you sound good. I said, thanks, Mom. So she says, well, what are you going to call yourself? I said, I'm calling myself Killah Bams. She said, that's not what you're going to call yourself.
She didn't like the killer part?
I'm like, what do you mean? That's not what I'm going to call myself. That's what I'm going to call myself. She said, no, I didn't name you Killer anything, and you're not a killer. So
that's a very mom thing to say, yeah.
And I'm like, Ma, no, that's not what you're going to call yourself.
I want to be hard.
So I said, all right. She says, regroup, think of something else, And I said, but Mom, that's the theme. She says, that's not. She says, if that's what you're gonna call yourself, I'm not gonna listen to your music.
That hits too. That hits you.
Okay. So I just used basically my middle name, which was Solomon.
Okay.
And, her maiden name, which was Childs.
All right.
You know what I mean? And I just came up with Solomon Childs, and it was like it was like I needed it anyway. I was already in a verge of creating that name, because they had alter ego names, which was Ghostface Killah, Tony Starks, Raekwon the Chef, Lex Diamond, Method Man, Johnny Blaze. So I was already in the process of I need an alter ego name anyway.
I hear that.
So I was like, okay, cool, that's what it is, and I just basically went there.
Right, and it sounds deep too. Like, even if somebody didn't know that story, like I didn't know that story until just now. I thought it was like a meaning from like a character in somebody in history, or a character from a kung fu flick, or any kind of flick, or some kind of like a biblical meaning, or like a meaning from the 5%ers or something like that. So that's why I wanted to get that story, because I remember my original rap name when I first started writing rhymes. It was kind of an alter ego name, which I dropped. It was Don Martino. Everybody was kind of piggybacking that whole like mafia type thing, Don, whatever. And after a while, I was like, I don't want to be another one of those. That's not my lifestyle anyway. And eventually, I kept the Martino part because originally where Martino came from was while I was in the military. A friend of mine we used to write plays and stuff, and he would base the characters off of his friends. And my character name was Martino. I was like, oh, well, I already got the Don part, Don Martino. I was writing that in a lot of rhymes, and I liked the way it sounded with syllables and whatnot. But then I just once I got out of the military and got regular jobs, people was calling me by my first name, Khari, which was my legal first name, and that's what my mom named me. And back when I was out there running around wild in Hawaii, I found out girls kind of like that name, and I just put it like, okay, Khari Martino. I like the way it sounds. It fits with a lot of my rhymes. I can just put it anywhere. I'll just stick with that. And I kept going with it to this very day. And that's where that came from.
Sounds dope.
And ended up not being an alter ego, but just being who I am, but with the way I like the way Martino sounded and looked on paper and looked in graphics that I used to do, because I do a lot of graphic design also. So that's where my origins came from. But I was fascinated. I was kind of shocked when you was talking about when you was locked up and you was like making beating on the table and rhyming. It reminded me of one of my favorite rappers, Sugar Free. This video that's going viral now of video that he did with his homies. He was like beating on the table, rhyming and freestyling, which ended up being an interlude on his first album called the County Jail Song. He was like beating on the table. He was rhyming on beat perfectly, and I was very inspired by that. I'm like, oh, that's the way. She's like, what you just said. That's dope, man. See, that speaks to your creativity, dog, man. That's what I fucks with.
Right. Dope.
Man, when you so we're gonna get into some other things too, man. We're gonna get into Child Famous, your collaboration with UK artists. We're gonna get into Hugh Brown. Hopefully, I'll not miss anything that I'm speaking on now. But you got, like, when you get into the studio, what's your mindset? Do you have a studio at home also, as well as big studios that you go to? How's your mind frame different from like recording on your own at home to like when you go into like big spots like Daddy's House or Hit Factory or things of that nature? How do you have to adjust, or do you go into it with the same mindset when you write?
It's the same mindset. Honestly, the only difference is that someone's pushing the buttons for you.
Yeah. Yep.
That's the only difference, especially when you're doing it for real. See, if you're not doing it for real, then it's a difference, because then you're like, it's almost like you're working backwards if you're not doing it for real. Meaning, if you don't have the proper equipment, the proper programs, the proper speakers, things like that at home, then the proper recording booth, like the acoustics, if everything is not in line, then you're basically hustling. You're working backwards.
Yeah.
And maybe a more professional type atmosphere will help you more. But for someone like me, coming up under like RZA and Choco, guys that I've sat there on the boards and watched them create and, engineer and mix and master and do that. I know the full ropes. So I know what it needs to sound like as pre-pro.
Yeah.
I know how good the pre-pro needs to sound so that the mix and the master will be amazing.
Right.
It all starts with the pre-pro. If the pre-pro is garbage, then the song's gonna be garbage.
Yeah.
Every now and again you get a needle in a haystack Quincy Jones, that comes into the equation that's like, engineer gifted, and he can basically, abstract music from a cassette tape from 1986.
Right.
And make it sound like, it was just recorded in 2023.
Right.
Those are not everyday people. Those are like gods of the engineering world.
Yeah, the magical ears
that form their heads, every now and again. But on a regular plane, you have to, basically make sure that, everything is sonically sounding the way that it needs to sound, so that when you do get it to mixing and mastering in that professional editing field,
right,
you can actually level up, and it can really go hard as you want it to go.
Right. It's good to be meticulous about things like that. Have attention to detail for sonics, because you got to think about how it's going to connect to the masses, how your fans are going to perceive it. You got to make sure it sounds good in any form, whether they're listening to it on earbuds or listening to it in the car or listening to it in a club or on the radio in some random place, or whether it just be in the studio monitor or even somebody's hearing it on their cell phone speakers. You gotta be cognizant of all that, and that's something that not a lot of people can do. And I've worked with people whether on an underground unknown to people that on your level, to helping out with people that are on a level that I want to get to one day, and it's all tied in together. And some people get frustrated, some people don't, but that frustration has to come from a level of professionalism. And that's one of the reasons why I love working with you with the tracks that we've just worked on recently. I don't know if you're at liberty or not to say what it is right now, but just that what we've done so far, and we're still working on it now as we speak. But it's a fun process, and it's fun and frustrating at the same time. But if you love what you're doing, you have a passion for it, man, you get engulfed in it, and you don't take any kind of critique or criticism personally. You take it professionally, and you keep getting better and stronger. And I love being in the studio, man. Like I said, I've been rapping and making music and beats for many years, man. 19 years rapping, but like making beats probably about 12 or 13, and mixing and engineering probably just short of that, but still learning along the way. I never had a formal education in this, but I've just learned along the way from people who are extreme professionals at it along the way over the years, picking their brains, watching them in the studio, being around that, and studying nonstop, whether I'm looking at tutorials, reading books, looking up information on crafts, trying things, buying plugins, using different DAWs. And it's a fun process, man. I'm on the tail end of my trying to be a rapper phase of my life. I'm more focused on production and engineering now as far as the musical side, but I love connecting with artists like you who are engulfed in it and doing it in a major way, man. Salute to you on what you're doing. I'm a fan. I love it.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah, man. It takes a lot of commitment and time to do what we do and be in this music, man, no matter what stage of life that you're in. And I'm about to enter fatherhood in a few months. You've been there a while now. How do you balance that? How did you balance that early on with like when you first became a father, and how do you balance that now? This is a personal question here.
When I first became a father, I didn't know how to be a father.
Okay.
I thought it was just about sneakers and clothes and hey, as long as I bought my kid a pair of Jordans and a sweatsuit, I'm good. That was it for me. I'm a good father. It's so much more to that than materialistic things. It's actually being there for bumps and bruises, and when the kid falls off the swings,
right.
when they're in the home and they have a toy that's broken and you put the toy back together. It's stuff like that makes you a good dad. It's stuff like that makes them, that brings that joy to you when you see the face of that child light up because maybe the Barbie car's door fell off, and you can assemble it. They don't know how to assemble it because it's too much for them.
We gotta be the superheroes, man.
You're like, oh, this is really nothing. It just has to snap back on right here.
Yeah, it's
and
that bonding.
Snap it back on, and they're like just lit up, like you fixed it.
Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much. It's like it's that right there that is more the joy of fatherhood than actually going to Foot Locker and buying them a pair of. Because sure, that's cool too. I mean, that's a joy in itself, but it's just no comparison to the actual on-hands joy of being a real dad.
Is it create like a good mental, emotional connection, that bonding, and knowing that you're the hero, you're everything to them. I talk to my wife all the time about like how these visions of scenarios and things is going to be like when she's here, because we're our first child is going to be born in October. That's October, so we're both excuse me, we're both super excited about that, and I have all these visions and dreams about her and what she's going to be like, where we're going to be like together, and because we're both super stoked about it. And yeah, man, I like to pick people's brains that are already parents about their experiences. I mean, everybody's experience is going to be different, man, but I just like to talk about it now because I've always felt a lot of joy in certain things that I've done in my life and career, whether it be the culinary or the music side, but this is a totally different level. And yeah, man.
Yeah, you're gonna have fun. You know, don't worry about it. You know, you're gonna really, really have a lot of fun, and it's gonna be great. And you know, you're gonna love it. I promise you, you're gonna love it.
How did you balance your music career, pursuing your music career, and being a father at the same time early on? Was it an easy adjustment? Was it a hard adjustment, or how did you make that happen?
I think the way I did it was I channeled it.
Okay.
I channeled the energy, and I channeled the love, and the you know, the wanting to succeed. I channeled all of that towards making it, you know, towards, you know, making it be big, you know, knowing what I wanted to do, knowing what I wanted to accomplish. I just basically channeled that energy from the love of the children into the music and wanting to succeed, because I know it's, you know, as simple as, there's a lot of simple old sayings that are really accurate, and it really applies to, you know, life.
Right.
Like, you know, if I'm not good, how can they be good?
There you go.
So,
an example.
You know, my biggest goal was, you know, being good and doing the music the way it needs to be done,
okay,
so that it can prosper for them in the future.
I feel that, man.
You know, we can always, you know, being an artist, you know, you can always make tons and tons of miscellaneous music, or just not even, because I don't believe any music's miscellaneous, but let's just say having fun music.
Yeah.
Like, you know, out there, and just whatever it is, and, you know, just whatever comes to mind and however I'm feeling at the moment, you know, we can always make those kind of songs.
Right.
But it's songs that mean something. It's the songs with a message. Those are the ones that you make that make the impact that you can actually make some sort of real damage with. And I just got to a point where I want to make more of those songs, opposed to just miscellaneous bars, or just, you know, murder bars, you know. So, you know, every now and again, I give back, you know, and I'll do the murder bars, and, you know, hey, this is, you know, but it honestly, it's not the same, and I just don't get a charge from it like I may have gotten when I was 18.
Yeah. Yeah, because when you get older, you have different life experiences, and your perspective on things broadens, and you start to see, your outlook about life and the future and people. It gets broader and sharper, and you have your subject matter becomes more clear. Whereas at first you're just trying to get heard and seen and known and put on, just spitting the most random and but hard shit. Now, once you start living, you start talking about what you lived and what you want to look forward to. And I was inspired a lot by artists like the Tupac All Eyes on Me album. When that album came out, I was like, okay, he's actually saying different subject matter on all these different songs. That's what I want to do. Because, I mean, every now and then it's cool to go back to just spit, which is great, but you can only do that for so long. You got to have some subject matter and topics to talk about and put out there. And that's, like you said, that's what I started doing more of, and it becomes more fun, telling stories, talking about what's on your mind at that moment. If it's a situation you want to get out there, because it resonates with people, and that's what you want to do. You want to touch and connect. That should be our goal as artists overall, is to touch and connect, not just to get money. Yeah, that's part of it. That's cool. You want to support yourself and your family, but if you're making a connection, that's where the real goal is. That's where yeah, man. I'm feeling that, man. What's I saw that Child Famous collaboration. How'd you get that popping with UK artists? How'd that connection happen?
Well, I have a strong UK following.
That's what's up, man.
And the guy that put that album together, his name is Shaka Amazulu. He's pretty dope. He's been doing a lot of stuff lately, with me. We've been doing a lot of revamping, a lot of old mixtape projects, putting them on cassettes, getting them on vinyl, getting them out there. People can get to them that may not have had an opportunity to download them when they had the opportunity to download them. He's a great guy, and he's just like, one of those dudes that he's like kind of like the middleman. And I'm just so, on that atmosphere where, it's music for me. It's music for me. I'm not really concerned about, making tons of money off of the artist. That's really not an option for me. Like, when a person says, well, hey, Solomon, what's up with a feature? There's guys that, I know personally, I'm not going to say any names, but I know personal people that, they're like, well, hey, what's up with a feature? And they're like, hey, yeah, I'll do it for like $6,000. And I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, you'll do what for $6,000? Build them a home?
Right.
Like, what are you talking about?
Who do you think you are, man, Jigga?
You want to give them a 16-bar verse for $6,000?
That's crazy.
Why would I tell them that for? Like, why would they pay you? I don't care. The only person I'm paying $6,000 for anything musically inclined with would be someone like I said, Quincy Jones, Patti LaBelle. Those kind of names. Then sure, those are icons. You know what I mean? Of course. I'm not giving Joe Smo from this clique or camp or clan or whatever they want to be from,
right?
Or unit or whatever. I'm not giving them no $7,000 for no verse.
Right.
Why am I doing that? You know what I mean? So it's like, you know what? No, that's not it. That's not it for me. I prefer doing it for free. I prefer if you had a budget. If you came to me and you said, well, yo, I got a budget for $3,000, all right, and I'm willing to give you the $3,000 for a verse. I prefer doing the verse for free and you taking that $3,000 and put that in marketing and promotion of the actual song.
Yeah, getting it out there, getting it seen and known and heard.
Right, let's get money that way. Let's do it together. Let's stream and get money together so that when we get our quarterly, you got a portion, I got a portion. Let's do it like that, opposed to you giving me $3,000 for a track. And I'm like, oh, hey, thanks, and then now when you do drop the song, it falls on dead ears.
Exactly. You got to become a partner in your project. I've never charged a dime for any of my feature verses that I've done. I've done feature verses with some artists I never even heard of before, and I never even heard the song come out or where it came from. And I've done some verses for people that I know of, or just locally people who actually put out stuff and it's did okay for themselves. And I was happy to see that. I was happier more to see that than to see anything from it, because I know just the fact that I'm being heard and the camaraderie of collaborating with them, it was more fun for me. It meant more to me. Even when, like, the last couple albums I put out, when those sold a few, the feature verses I have on those were from friends of mine that I knew that were good spitters. And yeah, it was on DSPs, but I set it up so they can get their splits if it happened to sell any. Now, whether it sold a lot, I don't know, probably not. But if it did make something, they'll get a little something from that. I don't care if it's a check for 58 cents. Still, just the fact that knowing that doing it for the love of doing it, and if something comes from it, happens to come from it, cool, we all get a piece of that. If not, cool too, as long as it gets out there. That's what it's all concerned about, because you don't want to just rap for yourself.
Exactly.
Man, and before we get out of here, man, I'm gonna go over a couple of things kind of quick, and I don't mean to rush it, but I would like to do another one of these so we can talk about more stuff. But what's some of your most fun experiences touring or doing shows with any people that have been on tour? I saw the Ghostface and Chic Lout show in Hawaii back when I lived out there, and that was a dope show. But what are some of your fun experiences as far as like touring and being on shows with them, or any of the the
experience is amazing. The tours are amazing. I had a great tour. I went and did the whole Australia a few years back.
Oh shit! Okay.
Coffs Harbour and um, um, Adelaide and Sydney, Melbourne.
What are those fans like?
I did the whole Australia, and it was great. It was amazing. I got a lot of cultural people, Aboriginal people that, I got to know their story, and I got to talk with a lot of, children and Aboriginal children, and it was just really, really a great situation. And, it was, that was life, and that was tour life, and it was like, I was just happy to be a part of it, and, any kind of tours that I'm on, whether it's, the Project Revolution tour with Korn and Snoop Dogg and MOP,
oh man, I bet that was crazy.
Or the the Ghostface Theodore Unit tour in the UK. They were all great tours, and it's just so much more to come. And it's like now I get why groups like Rolling Stone and U2, Bruce Springsteen, these people tour forever.
Yeah.
They keep doing it till the day that they, finally pass away, or they finally retire. It's like, it's just an amazing feeling, that there's no feeling like that,
Yeah, man.
I think for a lot of artists that it's a very, the butterflies are like the size of Buicks in their stomachs.
Yeah.
Before they get on stage. But
Yep.
I promise you, the minute that feeling is gone and you are actually up there, your vibe is like, oh yeah, this is where I want to be.
Most definitely, man. Man, you're dropping some major gems right now, man. And I hear what you're saying. Performing is probably my favorite aspect of anything I've done related in this musical game, man. I've heard on Drink Champs, they ask the question all the time, what do you perform more, making the music or performing the music? And every time I hear that question when I'm listening to them, I always say to myself, well, 50-50, but more, I say 55% performing the music. Any show that I've done, whether I've performed in front of 1,000 people or just 10 people, it was so much fun performing it, man. And whether it's a song I've just memorized, a new one, or a song I've done a million times, it's so much fun connecting to the crowd or just putting that energy out there. I think I've shared this story a couple of times before. When I was working on a cruise line as a chef, we had this crew talent show that we did every week for the guests. And I did it every week. I had alternated weeks, a love song or a song about Hawaii, because it had to make something clean for the guests, but still entertaining for the crew. So one week, I was, that afternoon after I got off work, I started feeling really sick. And by the time I got backstage for showtime, I was doubled over in pain, sick, weak, everything. I was like, man, I can't do this. But I was like, I'm going to power through. They call me up. I'm in the wings of the stage. Call me up. I go on stage. My music hits. It feels 3 minutes and 59 seconds. I was on stage doing that song. I felt no illness. I was feeling energy in the crowd. Bam, regular. Walk off stage. Walk backstage. Puke my guts out. Fell on the floor. Crawl back to my cabin. I'm like, yo, I'm in quarantine for 48 hours, man. I'm fucked up because I had the flu. But that's what speaks to the energy of being hyped. The energy that you get from the crowd and wanting to have the love for doing this. Man, like I grew up as a super shy, very quiet kid, and I came out of my shell around the middle of high school, and because I wanted to do music, but like once you came out of the bug of wanting to get on excitement, get on stage, I've never been stage fright. I've always had stage hype. I say that to a lot of people. I love performing and being on stage and stuff. So when you said that, it brought me to that story I wanted to say. And I felt like that a lot of artists have that. When you said the butterflies be as big as a Buick, that's where I think that comes from. Man, what kind of, before you get out of here, man, what do you have coming up? Do you have anything coming out soon or now that you want to promote?
Yeah,
you want to give awareness to?
I got three projects. I got 3 projects coming out. I've got a full R&B album coming out. This is going to be like really, really over the top.
Oh shit! Okay.
Crazy, and I know that it's really good music. Real quick story before I head out. I usually send my cousin Ghost music, and I'm like, so he can critique it.
Yeah.
And he'll get back to me and be like, maybe a day or two later, and he's like, yo, and I'll be like, yo, what's up with that song I sent you? And he's like, oh, yo, that was dope. You had some blondes in there that was, was really nice. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. This one particular song I sent him about 2 months ago. I sent it to him. It's called I Wanna Call You Mine. And I sent it to him, and we were already on the phone for probably an hour and 25 minutes. And I sent him the song right before we got off the phone. And I'm like, yo, check this song out and let me know what you think about it. He's like, all right, cool, I got you. So usually, like I said, I'll do that, and he'll hit me back maybe 3-4 days later, if not next week, and then he'll give me some insight. This kid called me back in 6 minutes. I'm like, wait. So now I'm thinking this must be a pocket dial. He must be calling me by accident right now.
Right.
So I answer. I'm like, hey, what's up? This I know. This is an accident. You called me by accident. I know. He said, nah, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? I called you by accident. I said, oh, because you're calling me right back. We were already on the phone for an hour and 25 minutes. What? Is everything all right? What happened? He's like, you just sent me a song. What are you talking about? I'm like, yeah. Oh, okay. Wow, what's up? So he's like, yo, that song is phenomenal. He said, that's like one of the best songs you've ever wrote. Now I'm like, in a funny way, I'm offended, because I'm like, wait, what? What do you mean one of my best songs I've ever wrote? As much classics as I have, you're going to say this is one of the best songs I've had? Give me a break.
Yeah.
So he's like, no, I'm serious. We laughed real quick about that. He was like, nah, really serious. All jokes aside, this song is really, really dope.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, cool. So that just, basically, my wife tells me all the time, like, yeah, the song is dope and your singing is great. And Shaheem's always told me, like, yo, honestly, I don't even know why you rap. I think you should just do the singing, because it's like, you kill it all the time. So, I've always wanted to dabble in it, but, it just wasn't a market really for being a part of Wu-Tang, at the time. That wasn't really their cup of tea. They were more dungeon grungy type of hip hop, so now that it's kind of like out there on a major level, I think I can play around with it a little bit more in the future.
Man, that's dope. I'm about to drop a bomb on that real quick. Here we go. Couldn't help it, I had to do it.
Right.
Anyway, man, it's been like I said, man, thank you for that. It's been a blessing, man, an honor having you on the show today. And want to give a quick shout out to anybody or anything as we sign off here?
Give a shout out to all of the fans out there, all the real hip hop fans.
Yes, sir.
50 years of hip hop, we did it. We're going to continue to keep doing it. The Wu-Tang fans. I want to give a shout out to you, Khari, for everything that you did for me.
Appreciate
everything
it,
that we're doing together. I appreciate you, my brother.
Likewise.
If anybody wants to get at me for any features or anything like that, please hit me on my social medias. It's Solomon Childs. Everything is Solomon Childs.
Yes.
So the best way to find me is just to Google Solomon Childs. I try to keep it really easy so that people can find me. So there's like the real Solomon Childs, or it's none of those. Everything is Solomon Childs. So I guarantee you, if you Google that, you will find me some way, somehow, one of those, whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, one of those, TikTok, you're going to find me.
Yes, sir, man. He is everywhere, man. Solomon Childs, man. Sounds just how it's spelled. You know what I'm saying? He's there. You Google him, search him. It's all his information is there. Hit him up. Hit me up. We're doing things together, man. This has been a great episode. I want to thank you again. A shout out to you. Infinite Ambition Podcast. Recognize Your Limitless Worth. This has been Khari Martino talking to the Solomon Childs. Man, you can hit him up he's on YouTube, all the audio, musical DSPs. You can find his music there. He's got a ton of music. Your favorite rapper, he's your favorite rapper's favorite rapper. He's doing music with them too. You never know when you find him, man. In the UK, Australia, man. This has been an episode 26. Thank you, my brother. We are signing out. Peace. Infinite ambition.